It's fun, really, working on complicated arrangements. And it's basically me and my friend. Simple as that. Just making music for the sake of it. I would like to listen to an album, a bit like Pink Floyd, like Dark Side of the Moon back in the day, you know. There's an area near Soria, which is I think it's the second most depopulated area in the entire Europe. So having a sanctuary to go there and just spend a week or week and a half on your own, just making music, and just hopefully an accident will happen, and it does, you know. And when it does, it's a beautiful thing. I won't shower again. I hope that answered the question.
Hello, everyone. Together with us today is one of the masterminds behind the what we call it, Spanish-British duo and now full band, TODOMAL, and they just released their third album. And hello, Christopher. Can you please introduce yourself? What role do you play in the band?
Hi, Volodymyr. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. Well, my name's Chris, and I'm part of the duo who recorded this last album and the previous, well, 3 albums by TODOMAL. And it's basically me and my friend. Simple as that. Just making music for the sake of it. Just an excuse to be together and just to enjoy just living, you know, and part of a therapy, you know, just kind of a therapy, doing things. And we enjoy working on arrangements, really. That's what we really do like. And I can't play drums, but I've composed some of the bass lines, some guitars, keyboards, and I sing, I do the voice, you know, the melodies, harmonies. I do the demo. I tend to do the original demos, and my colleague Javi's more of a left side of the brain type of person. You know, he's more technical. He kind of you know, he mixes the album. He's a very proficient drummer, and he plays any instrument very easily. So we just kind of just do some demos and then just meet up and just like a mad professor kind of doing it. No, it's pretty easy, and it's fun, really, working on complicated arrangements.
That's perfect. Yeah, your newest album, Graveyards of Joy, just came out last week on Season of Mist, and it's the third album in what you call a trilogy, and first album was in 2021. And when did you decide that it's going to be a trilogy and the whole story and concept, and not just 3 separate records?
Well, that trilogy is a very powerful concept, isn't it? And it's just really only when we delivered the album, really, that we realized, you know, because these albums have been recorded as a backdrop of a pretty grim moment in our lives. You know, we've lost lots of family members, and you know, we thought, oh, you know, it just seems like the third album of trilogy, something that you want to, you know, wrap up and just flush down the toilet or just put in a drawer and forget it's there. So it gives us a fresh start altogether, because we've started with the live band too. So now we've kind of expanded like an extended family type of feeling. You know, we've got an agent, we've got crew member, we've got, you know, a bigger team, you know. So it was I don't know, a trilogy thing is just resonates with lots of people, really. I mean, having you asking this that's proof of it, isn't it? So no, it's really something that I don't know, just came up during the marketing and thinking about the marketing of the album, to be honest.
You mentioned that yeah, the album reflects some personal tragedies and the previous albums too. So how did creating music and putting them on albums help to like cope with those grievances?
Well, pretty much, because you see, Javi and I, there's almost 600 kilometers separate us. You know, he lives in Alcarria, in La Mancha, in Guadalajara, and I live in Barcelona. But each of the albums, we've kind of worked on it on separate sessions. on different places. And I'm lucky enough to be able to have a village home in Teruel, in the middle of kind of nowhere. Uh, and what I really did is just you just retreat, just for a week at a time. Just go there on your own. And I'm not sure you guys have got somewhere there in America, but it's good. It's quite typical for people, folks, to have an inherited village home from their parents or grandparents, in a godforsaken village. So having a sanctuary to go there and just spend a week or week and a half on your own, just making music. That's how at least 2/3 of the album's been, gestated. So that's been portrayed in the cover too. So that's pretty much the feel of this album. It's kind of a rural, kind of slow brewing type of album. Just releasing stuff, then at night, and then just looking at the stars, having a funny cigarette, and having just a drink of wine with your friends down in the village, and just trying to cope with grievance. Really, that's how the album's been gestated.
Yeah, and when the press release states that the band is rooted in the emptied provinces of Spain and of like Spanish interior. And what like pulled you guys into building your album around the topics of depopulation?
Well, that's pretty much because La Mancha is this is where Javi's from. It's just basically the land of El Quixote, Quixote. So there's a pretty big connection to it, And this album's been this time it's been recorded, as I said, in a region called Matarraña, which is a beautiful area. And you must bear in mind that in Spain, not a lot of people know that, but it's just around, there's a ring around Madrid, right? It's basically, there's no one lives there. there's an area near Soria, which is I think it's the second most depopulated area in the entire Europe. So I mean, trying to explain that to a Dutch or a British, or it's something that just really resonates when you're there, and because we're traveling back and forth always, that's part of the backdrop, of the album, really, so it's just there, just having long, big, huge spaces where you can mind roam. You can see in the distance, you kind of feel calm, everything's like a bit desert like, but there are no fences, fairly recently, I've British found Scottish roots, and just if you travel anywhere around Scotland, England, and the north of everything is fenced, because there's lots of cattle too, but everything's fenced, and that gives you a different sense of kind of a being caged in, whereas these depopulated areas in Spain, where we spend time in, there are no fences really, so you really have the feeling you can actually walk wherever you want to, and there's kind of sense of freedom, really, although it's a very, very brutal and very, very barren place to live, but it's interesting, it's very, very interesting. And funnily enough, the village where this album was recorded, my neighbor is an American producer from the 90s, techno producer, and there's a British guy down the road who's got children. There's a couple of Dutch folks, so I kind of feel at home, really. Strangely enough, like refugees. It's like this. Always relate it to some kind of Epicurean garden, some sort. We just retire. So that's the overall kind of feeling of the album, really.
And also, as you mentioned before, on this album, there are more musicians than just two of you. And were they also part of the writing process or just recording?
Oh well, I mean, Javi and I, we it's only two of us recording,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's probably going to follow up like that. You know, sometimes in the credits, you know, it's might not be very, it might be a bit confusing, but no, it's just the two of us, really. You know, I you know, I just do my demos with the drums and all the folks. I compose with my piano or the guitar, acoustic guitar, you know, bass on one hand, a bit like Ray Manzarek of the Doors, you know, but singing. You've got three elements, and that's how this kind of you know, three-piece kind of singer-songwriter kind of toolkit. That's how the songs are made, really. And but no, it's just the two of us. But we have had some help with by Cecilia, who's our like live keyboard player, and she's a musicologist. So it's been very easy just to, you know, spend like an afternoon working on some vocal lines, like in the first track, Mare Ignis, just keep on layering stuff. And then we've had Clavijo, which is a violin player from Madrid. We just sent this kind of the software lines, and he sent the files back, you know, with the live, like multi-layered violins and strings. And we have a girl that's good friend of ours now, who's from Macedonia, North Macedonia. She's called Teodora Gosheva. She's a lovely, beautiful voice, and she's been on our 3 albums, on the odd song, and she's also participated in this album. I think that's pretty much it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But some guitar players. Yeah, we have a friend of ours actually who's just played the strumming parts, some of the strumming parts, because, you know, when you get a very proficient colleague, we'll just send the files in like in 1 hour. You know, that's how we work. You know, and Happy, my colleague, my partner, he's a drummer, and I think we recorded all the drums, and we reamped all the guitars in about 3 hours. You know, in the studio. So, and you know, because we do it all ourselves, we mix it, and it's a pretty mad professor type of approach. Yeah.
Yes, but you also, yeah, I think for live performances right now you have some recorded musicians as well. And
That's right.
I think I saw in the list pretty much like all of them have the name Javier. So is it requirement to join the band? You have to be called Javi.
Absolutely. I mean, I kind of I can't get used to it, because I don't know. Now we got nicknames. The drummer's called Bud, and he's just, I played with him before in my previous band, and he's really big type of drummer. You know, your archetypical big hard hitting drummer that plays very, very precisely and very hard, and that's given the live performances a really, really, really good push. You know. Then there's the other Javi Felith, who's been he's actually he runs a studio, who's recorded lots of underground bands. Bands like extreme metal bands, you know, and he's been very instrumental for us to be able to open up to lots of contacts who've eventually led us to, you know, signing with the label, meeting an agent, you know, that kind of music business side to it. And otherwise it's just me and my mates just making music in the middle of nowhere, and you know, and having our trippy hippie journey, you know.
And
Yeah.
yeah, your label labels your music as atmospheric doom metal. So what do you put in that term? Or do you completely agree with that term? Or is it something label put and you just create the music?
Well, I just don't really know, to be honest. I mean, I mean, it's perfectly understandable. People need to pigeonhole you in a way, so to present you to some folks. But I don't know. I suppose nowadays, just the attention span is just so slight, you know, so small, that it's good. I think it's good for us, because you shut off, you know, you say, okay, you think. I mean, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know, you don't. let's just do the best you can with music, aimed at people that we think will enjoy and will devote time to listening to it. So you just try to how would I put it, to cater to more of a humane type of old school listener. You know, does that make sense? You know, so you're making music to folks your age who are going to spend time and then thinking, well, I would like to listen to an album, a bit like Pink Floyd, like Dark Side of the Moon back in the day, and you just do it. You just write music, atmospheric. I don't know, atmospheric. What does atmospheric music mean? It's very difficult, but I think I proposed something like wide scale, I don't know, wide screen rock something, but it's just too difficult to pigeonhole, especially because it's a metal label. If it were an indie like 4AD, artist, I think that would be probably different. But I honestly just don't know. You just do the music and hope it lands on some ears. And even if it's 10, 100, 2 people,
Yeah, I listened already to the album and think even the song to song, there is a diversity, and there are also some acoustic parts. There are some guitars that I would even say sound like Baroque guitar and Baroque acoustic guitar.
indeed.
Yeah, there is a good diversity, but at the same time, it doesn't look like it just pieced together. No, it's like very cohesive. And also, yeah, it's doom. Sometimes it sounds like darker funeral doom metal. And you chose, even though you have a background of playing in more extreme metal genres, but you chose not to use any growling and have very clean vocals. So were you still maybe deliberating? Okay, maybe we can put some growls in here, or you're just okay, no, just clean vocals.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll be honest here. If I ever hear a growl, my mind switches off. First time I picked up an album was this style was what was the name? It was Tales of Creation by Candlemas in a shop that was right in front of what lots of tourists of Barcelona might know pretty well, La Pedrera by Gaudí. This building in Paseo de Gracia. Just right in front there was a record shop, and I bought that album. I just because there's a Doré engraving there, yellow in yellow, and I loved that album. I just loved it. It opens up, you know, lots of stuff. And my family very Christian too. I was brought up in a lot pretty much in Church of England in Barcelona, so it was pretty much just a huge stained glass, lots of folks, your parents singing, hymns, and for some reason, being a rock and roller or a heavy metal um, or a metal lover, bear in mind, even at that age, you like Metallica, that kind of stuff, like most teenagers. But then you got this album, Candlemas, and it's operistic singing, and there's melody, and it's just multi. There's more to it rather than growling. So it's just natural not to growl. To be honest, I know some people just switch off if they don't hear growling, but what can you do? I'm sorry, guys.
Let's talk about the visual part of the album, your cover, and it's the painting by Catalan painter. And like, how did you pick it? Were you in the museum? Because it's in museum in Barcelona. So were you in the museum and you saw it and decided, yeah, that's it?
Yes and no, because it's not in display, at least not at the time. It's a very very famous local painting. Was a painter. Was a teacher, very famous teacher in the 19th century, and he was part of a school by these Spanish folks who traveled to Paris. There's a lot of French influence there, but it's translated into the light and the feel of this part of Spain. Exactly. So you get this afternoon light at some particular times of the year, which is basically it. Lots of ruins covered by vegetation at that time with that light, with extensive landscapes. Where it's just unspoilt. And I was kind of flickering in the archive. It's the Catalan Museum, National Museum, and it's got an inventory, and you can just browse around. So it just felt right. And there's this tiny little person right there, this little tiny little boy there, kind of feels really, really small. And there's like this old figure behind it. It's very funny because I read a paper, like a dissertation, some art student dissertation about this cover, and it didn't mention some of the items that are in this picture. No. So that felt strange too. So that clicked. So I just talked to Javi and said, look, I would really, really like this cover to be it, because it's, for me, the core of the album to me is the song Deliverance and Graveyards of Joy, which I just recorded there in about an afternoon. And so we just contacted the museum, and we just paid for the usage rights for the photo, and that's it.
And you also decided not to put your band logo or the album name on the cover. It's just the painting.
Yeah, it's just a painting, and too, just bear in mind, it's just a legal thing too. Same with our previous album, you see. First album, I kind of photoshopped my own, but for the other two, it's just one of the requirements is that you don't kind of manipulate it. So I thought, well, never mind. You just put a sticker there, and that's it. And it's just a way of paying tribute and I don't know, recognizing the art of a local painting. And nowadays, lots of folks in the scene complain about the lack of originality. So yeah, I just couldn't really copy anything without it feeling a bit contrived.
And you also brought like that feel that you mentioned, the light and the ruins, to your like press photos, because you're in the ruins and there are beams of lights, there are some like reflections.
Absolutely, absolutely. Those photos are exactly that exact photo that you've seen it's completely untouched. There's no Photoshop at all. It's just a specific light that's from 5. This is recorded in the ermita. This is like a small church of Misericordia in a village called Cretas in the Matarraña, right? You can look it up on the on Google Maps if you want. Cretes. Oh, yeah, Cretes in Aragon. And it's November. That was shot in November at 5. I think there's kind of this 5 to 10 minute sort of window of light, right? And we just bought. I just put what was this? Let me show you. Let me show you an album. Let's see. Hang on. This album. So this is one of my favorite albums, right? You see that?
Yeah.
That's my inspiration, right? It's a pretty simple thing. Pink Floyd done it. It's a very hypnosis type of thing, This covers by Hypnosis, Al Stewart's Modern Times.
Mhm.
It's a fantastic album, and it's by the Pink Floyd type of the cover artists, the Hypnosis duo, Storm Thorgerson and Aubrey Powell, and it's pretty much a tribute, and it works. It does work with that specific light, and it gels with the cover, and that's it. Happy accident. You don't need a photographer.
Yeah, I think as long as you can visualize that, and you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to use, what I want to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. You just put the timer on, and it's just two guys with a tripod running around, and just hitting the button.
In that 5,
You
10
know,
minute window, like you mentioned.
absolutely, and just hopefully an accident will happen, and it does. And when it does, it's a beautiful thing because it captures a moment where it's not contrived. When you, I mean, only this weekend we're back from a big festival in Spain called Resurrection Fest. It's one of these big kind of macro 30,000-40,000 people festivals, and there are lots of modern bands there. And we were kind of sandwiched with one of these really young kind of dancing bands. They've got no amps, and there's a young girl growling along. And I don't know, and it feels strange. Feels very contrived, as I said. You arrive there and everyone's posing for Instagram, and and you're kind of trying to see if someone catches your arm there, and just turn it on, and it just doesn't really happen that way. So accidents. That's the beauty of it. I mean, let things slow cook, I guess. And that's great because we can, things like talking to you guys, well, to you, and in this case, that makes it the more beautiful, and fun.
Let's talk about the music video that you already mentioned, where that guy in the corner, the bust, is also in it. And also the song, not just the music video. No, I like how it starts dark, the song itself, and doomy, and it's black and white video. And in the end, there's more light, there's color in the video, but also music becomes more symphonic. There are strings. It sounds more like major melody. It's much lighter. So I guess despite the dark name of the album and the song Graveyards of Joy, there's hope in the end.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this pretty much, we did this with our previous album, A Greater Good. I'm not sure you've been able to listen to it, but if you do listen to our previous album, you'll see that it's very similar. It's got a similar structure. It's got these little kind of songs. It's more like our kind of formula, and there is an end of the song Greater Good. For example, there's major chords. There's a mixture between minor and major chords there, which brings some kind of relief to it. I'm not sure how many bands you listen to, or especially black metal, or strong, very extreme bands. All of them want to be more extreme than the next. But then the guy is wearing, I don't know, teddy bear, pants, underwear, and the backstage. How does that work? So you can't be the most extreme person in the world. It's impossible. No one's like that. No one's like that. And you can't live in a bloody sort of graveyard, can you? It's very beautiful, right? For 10 minutes maybe. But no, so the end, it's got to end with something that moves you, that relieves you, I think, and it's a very, very monotonous song too. So any tiny little change is I think it's welcome in a way. Bear in mind, I mean, it's hard for me to tell because this song I kind of I recorded in an afternoon. All the vocal parts. I just concentrated, just did it, recorded the original takes. The voices are there, probably just second takes, really. It feels right. Okay, let's do it next. So it captures a moment, and I think that's what we're really after. Not going to studio, just bring the studio to your sanctuary and having your moment, to sing it. And so the end you were talking about is pretty much Javi's arrangements, and he really likes major chords here and now and there. I think can be even more powerful than minor negative, really brutal and feelings. It can be. It's funny because some of our mates are in really some of the most important kind of extreme bands in the underground, and they love it, you know. So it's it's a bit of a contradiction sometimes, you know, that you find really extreme people who play in extreme bands, underground cult underground bands. They're fanboys of that music, you know. So I don't know. It works, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's good for creative people also to be open-minded, right? Because why limit your horizons?
Indeed, yeah. I mean, all of the folks who are open to music or have got some really latent or interesting talent are able to enjoy any sort of music if it's good, if it resonates, if it's got some kind of emotion. That is important, and I think that's the most important thing. I believe for TODOMAL and this album, something that's kind of real. And if it can resonate, if it can translate or you know, filter into the listenings, that's a tiny little triumph for us, especially in the you know, AI environment. You know, where there's lots of cynicism. You know, cynicism. I mean, we're a band that comes from Spain. There are no really big Spanish bands in the scene, really, let alone in this genre. Moonspell from Portugal could be the nearest example. But you know, you start from a blank slate, really. You've got literally nothing to lose, you know. So you're able to just do your own thing. So for us, it's like a greenfield sort of operation here. So, and hopefully people resonate with it, you know, and it will like, you know, and we can continue with this project, you know.
Yeah, hopefully. And this is your first album on Season of Mist label, so third total, first in Season of Mist. So what having the bigger label behind you, because previous two albums, I think they were self-released, right? And what like having the bigger label behind you helped to like open up, or what changes that now you were able to do that you couldn't before?
Well, I've been asked this question before, and it's a tough one because it's got different kind of dimensions. You know, bear in mind we're like the we're at the bottom of the food chain here. You know, we're definitely not the priority of the label. You know, I mean, we continue to do it ourselves. All the videos we do, all the kind of lots of the press stuff we even do ourselves. You know, we help out. You know, I guess it gives you some kind of validation in the scene, really, which unfortunately shouldn't be like that. You know, but it, if you just find an album from a very obscure, I don't know, I'm just guessing here, Estonian label, you know, you haven't heard of any Estonian doom, so why should I listen to some Estonian doom? But if back in the day, um, Peaceful Records, you're playing doom and Peaceful Records, that's different, you know. And back in the day, we had a band called Asgaroth, and we were signed to Peaceful Records. This just gives you kind of some kind of social validation, really. You know, that's very weird. It's very weird because we for example, in this, the TODOMAL Graveyards of Joy was delivered 6 months ago. You know, we've had to wait 6 months for it to be released. That is definitely something that I haven't liked very much, you know, because you move on. We're constantly moving on in our lives, you know. So that's been a negative thing, being on a label, but it gives you that kind of social validation that our agent can use to maybe to help us play in bigger festivals, get into a tour, have X person listen to your album, you know. Maybe a smaller label wouldn't have reached your magazine, for example, you know. So you've got, okay, you know, this it's just a label, really. It's just like just depends on people's tastes too, because I have a few reservations about signing to this label too, because it's a very metal, like extreme metal oriented label. So I didn't really know what to expect. But the folks there are fantastic, and the friends there, old friends are working there too. So that's helped us a lot,
And yeah, they're known for, I think, Rotting Christ and those Greek bands, Rotting Christ and Septic Flesh, probably one of the most known on them. But they also have folk projects, not even metal, just completely folk, like Heilung is on Season of Mist. And they're also releasing some Southern Gothic rock from United States, which is not even metal at all.
Yeah. It's it's a very strange thing. That's a positive thing too. Yeah, but you must bear in mind that I think it's a style that requires a brave, decision to sign one of these bands. But in our case, we're just a terribly cheap and easy to work with band. I think, because Javi and I were just two guys, cottage industry. We just do it ourselves. We can shoot videos. We can, we really don't need anyone else. No, we don't want anyone else, even the photos. And so we're able to do it, but we really need to put lots of energy, lots of soul, our own money, into it. But it's just like going on holiday with your wife or your best friends. You're gonna invest money. So it's basically the same, Yeah. So I think overall it's being very positive. I mean, yesterday I had an interview in a Hungarian magazine, and that's been voted by, I think the entire staff is like 10 people, #1 album of the month. So then you get 9s out of 10s, and it's really being incredible. We've never expected this to happen, but being on this level, it's been taken up level, tiny little level, and we're growing very quickly, very, very quickly for a very modern band, And we only did our first gig 2 years ago, year and a half ago, first gig. We played with Pain of Salvation in a big festival, Then we played with Candlemas, with My Dime Bry, in a big fest, So I mean, we've been very, very lucky, very, very lucky, So it's I think it's been positive to be in this label so far. We'll wait and see. Economically, of course, for bands it's very difficult nowadays, but let's see if in a year's time, when we start recording or thinking of doing a new album, let's see what that brings, if we're really excited, or maybe we're kind of feeling cynical about it. I mean, I'm in like my very, very late 40s, and Javi's in his mid 50s, so we've nothing to lose. No, So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
So you have your trilogy finished, and I think you have the tour planned. So after you're done touring, what are the next plans? Like, do you have already new material? Do you have plans for that?
I probably have material for 2 albums. I'm just I could just carry on forever. But we need to get together, and we need to weed out the music and just find something that feels good, that the two of us like. As I said, I'm kind of more right side of the brain type of person, and Javi is the opposite. So I try and squeeze my ideas through that filter. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But he's got to like it. And that's very important. So after the tour, we've got a couple of gigs in Barcelona and in France. A very interesting festival. I'm really looking forward to going in the south of France. And I don't know what we'll do. I think we'll probably play some more gigs. There are some ideas for next year, some very loose plans. But I suppose Javi and I will just continue recording. We'll just continue. It's fun just to meet up and just work out on ideas. And if we probably carry on doing something, because I mean we delivered this album last year at Christmas time, or in a rush, in stress, and then had to wait for 6 months, So I guess the earlier we start and the earlier we do it, the better, because then there's always lots of bands in this label, and big labels, and you have to wait for a slot. So it is what it is. So I guess we'll probably move on to a new album. It has to feel right. I just don't know, Volodymyr. I don't know. Maybe I'll slip in the shower. I'll break my neck. Who knows? Or maybe I'll win the lottery. Or maybe I don't know, become a nun or something. Or who knows?
I think we need more TODOMAL music.
Do you think
Yeah,
so? Oh, thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
So be careful in the shower, Chris.
I won't shower again, Volodymyr.
Thank you very much for your time today, Chris. It was a pleasure. Nice conversation. So any favorite words for our listeners, for our fans, for your fans?
Oh, well, just as I said at the start, thank you so much, Volodymyr, for taking your time and patience and listening to the album. Really, I mean, that is a little treasure in itself, at least for us in Spain, So we just hope you have a nice day wherever you are, and take good care of you and your friends and your family. That's a very important thing.
Thank you, Chris. So everyone, go listen to TODOMAL's new album, Graveyard of Joy. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Volodymyr. Thank you so much.
TheMetalList.com. Subscribe.